Not. All right, I think we're streaming. I'm gonna see here in just a second. How's everybody doing? Awesome, guys. Well, I'm excited to be here. How many of you are from right here in Austin? Okay, so no, keep your hands up. Okay, and how many of you are from San Antonio? How many of you are not from San Antonio or not from Austin? Okay, so we got some. Well, where are you from, sir?
Belton.
Belton. Okay, Belton. How far is that from here?
3 hours.
We're about 45 minutes to an hour away.
Okay, 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, and Dallas, right? Dallas got some people. Give them a hand driving from Dallas. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Well, hopefully they're seeing me live stream. They can at least see the PowerPoint. So if any of you guys want to, if you can go just on your phone. I know normally we put the phones away and mute them, but if you can just go to ogmastermindteam.com and then click on the webinars tab and just see if the sound is live streaming. And while we're doing that, taking a second, make sure everybody can hear us live. I'll just take a minute to kind of just talk a little bit about why we're here. You know, Miss Amstead. First of all, let's give Miss Jasmine Amstead a round of applause. For those of you that have been a part of the organization for quite some time, you're very well aware that Jasmine and her mother, Miss Susan Fairbanks, yeah, y'all give it up for her. Both rubies, I call them super rubies, right? Because they do more than an average ruby whenever, you know, things are rocking and rolling. So they've actually built this entire market really from scratch. And that's really what I'm here to talk about tonight. Because many of you have heard, how many of you have heard about Wave 2 for OrGano Gold, right? Mm-hmm. Many of you have heard about Wave 2, and you know, we've heard it announced, we've heard, you know, different things that have been launched from the company. How many of you like the new, you know, Greg, Norman, K cups that just came out? The brew cups, right? Yeah. And so those are some exciting announcements. You got the Coffee Connoisseur Club. We're going to talk about a lot of those things tonight, but really, more importantly, what I really want to talk about, because everybody that's in here, believe it or not, is somehow, some shape, some form, a part of our organization. And when I say our organization, I'm not just talking about me and Michelle. I'm talking about the mastermind team as a whole. And basically what I want to do as we start to get moving here tonight, I really want to just start off by saying thank you, okay? And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart, because, you know, a lot of people will say, that the only people that matter are your uplines, right? And that's absolutely true. However, I'm not placing $200,000 and $250,000 in volume in my own personal back office every single month to go diamond and beyond. So I want each and every one of you to give yourselves a round of applause, okay? And I'm really being serious, especially for those of you that have been around, because here's why. Each and every one of you have a part to do with helping create an OrGano Gold Diamond distributorship, okay? Because an OrGano Gold Diamond distributorship is not just one person. There may be one person leading that organization. There may be one person leading that company, but it's ultimately a culmination of a lot of different people, a lot of different skill sets. And that's really why, you know, we had the vision for this in the first place. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight, because that's really important to understand the entire vision of what it is that you're doing on a daily basis. Because believe it or not, we're not just in the coffee business. We're not just in the health business. There's a lot of other very important things that go into what it is that we're doing on a daily basis. Not only are you guys part of an OrGano Gold Diamond distributorship, you are part of one of the first 10 diamond distributorships in the entire corporation of OrGano Gold. So why don't y'all give yourselves a hand for that, okay? Because many people get involved in the company, and some of you that are in here right now, a lot of you have been here for a while, and some of you are relatively new. Maybe some of you have been in for maybe a year or so, 6 months, and maybe you know a little bit about the background of the organization, but you don't know a lot. And here's one of the things that I know for a fact, and it's really what today is about, is a lot of people don't really understand how valuable a certain situation is that they're in. And sometimes when you become a part of something, you know, you may just feel like you're joining and like you're just, you know, starting your own business, right? But you don't really understand the value. It's kind of like buying a McDonald's franchise. Whether you buy a McDonald's franchise or whether you buy a cleaning service franchise, you're both buying a franchise, right? But how many of you would agree that there's a significant difference of joining a McDonald's franchise versus joining a, you know, Janny King franchise, right? Mm-hmm. You understand there's a distinct difference there. And it's not just the price. Obviously, that's a big distinction there, right? But there's some distinctions that come in as a part of it, the systematic way of doing business and how it all works. And that's really why I want to stress this, because you guys are a part of something, whether you just got in last week, last month, last year, you've been in 5 years. What you have to realize is that you're a part of the foundation of what is OrGano Gold right now today, okay? There's somewhere in the ballpark of, I think, 250 to 300 diamonds, but your organization, the company or the organization that you're attached to, had a fundamental, significant role of building the company that you see today that's done cumulatively over the last 5 years, somewhere in the realm of $1 billion, give or take, $750 million to $1 billion in sales. But just think about that. One of the first 10 of 250 to 350 that exists today, right? Without the first one, which we're going to talk about in a second, and without the first 10, there wouldn't have been 20, there wouldn't have been 30, there wouldn't have been 50. You guys see how important that is? So there's some fundamental building blocks that takes a company from, you know, just having a vision and a dream to actually manifesting that in reality, and each and every one of you are part of that. So I'm saying, from Michelle and I, thank you, all of the entire mastermind leaders that, you know, aren't here today. Many of them are watching live stream, so everybody say hi to them. Woo! So thank you, okay, guys, and that's really sincere. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Now, many of you are probably wondering, why are we here today? How many of you, honestly, okay, when you got the invite, you got the email, or you got the text message or whatever, how many of you were like, I wonder what this is going to be about today? How many of you really honestly had that thought process? You really honestly, raise your hand, okay? So you were probably thinking like, what is really going on, right? So here's why we're here. We're going to talk about the past, okay, of the organization. We're going to talk about the present, and more importantly, we're going to talk about the future of the organization. As you know, the mastermind team, but more, as most of you know, as the OG mastermind team, right? And of course, I throw some hashtags for all of my social media people out there, right? These are probably some hashtags that you've seen or that we'll be using in the future as we move forward in different, encompassing and integrating social media with our daily presentations. Now, we're going to start by giving you guys a little bit of mastermind team history, right? Many of you, again, may know this and may be a refresher for a lot of you, but for those of you that are new, and it's good to just understand, again, really the significance of what each and every one of you are a part of, right? I want to start off by when we actually first got started in the business. Believe it or not, this is really before the mastermind team really had created a label, so to speak. When we first got involved in the organization, I wouldn't say my wife and I, but back then it was just me. We actually came into the business and hit Ruby in the first 3 months first 3 weeks of the company, right? Now, I want you guys to think about this, because many of you have been in the company for quite some time, right? And you can probably remember a time when maybe Sapphire was like, man, you have arrived, right? And then you saw, the carrot get a little bit, larger and a little bit farther back, right? A little bit harder to reach. And then it was Ruby, and then it was Emerald. And before you know it, it was, Black Diamond, right? How many of you remember watching that, right? Well, just imagine for a minute how significant, because this is pretty significant, right? Even today, if somebody gets in and goes Ruby in 3 weeks, that's a pretty big deal, right? Yes. But I want you to imagine how much of a big deal that was back then, without even losing scope of really how big it is today. Because I want you to think about it, once we start to relate our situations and what's happened to what goes on all around us, it may not seem like that big of a deal, right? Like somebody making, we don't give any income claim. There's no guarantee of an income, right, for any rank or what have you. You got to say that because we're live streaming here. But if a diamond is created and is making $20,000 a month, how many of you is that like pretty normal? That's, it's a normal deal, right?
Yeah.
But let me ask you this right now. If I put $20,000 in your bank account right now today and keep paying it to you every month, how many of you is that a pretty big deal?
Yeah.
So here's what happens is sometimes we get lost in reality because of what's going on around us, right? And so I wanted to point this out because I want you guys to understand, what really the past is and what took place. Second month in the business. Then the first 60 days became Emerald. That means we did, just to give you some specific numbers, did about $65,000 in volume the very first month in the business. Now, that wasn't just to me. Emerald consultant Miles and Jackie Anderson, which right now are in Nigeria. Actually, Miles in Nigeria, and I mean, he's got some incredible things going. So I don't anticipate them being Emerald for much longer. But he had a significant part to do with the $65,000 that was brought in the first month. Now, many of you know, as the 40% rule and as the business grows and develops, you have to have multiple legs. I'm not going to get into all of that tonight. But what you'll notice is that to go Emerald in 60 days, in the next month, what does that mean? That there's got to be some significant other legs that are brought on simultaneously to that, anchor leg, if you call it, right?
Right.
So just, once again, I want you guys to think about this. There's no OrGano gold. There's no diamonds in the company at this point. Just think about this, okay? There's no diamonds in the company whatsoever, and somebody gets in day one, and through their organization, not by themselves, but there's enough vision, there's enough excitement, there's enough future that people can see for their $65,000 in volume done month one. Not to mention very little prior experience before this. I'm going to throw that out there, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But then the second month, to attract and develop 2 additional legs, at least significant enough to actually complete the equation of having the 40%. How many think that's pretty significant, right? Not only to mention once again that there were no diamonds in the company. Now, here's the cool thing about that, is that month when that happened, as an organization, we were responsible, a vital role in helping create the first diamond within OrGano Gold. Mr. Abby and Renee Ikiola, now Blue Diamond, see them right here. Give them a round of applause. So I'm going to reiterate again how, we talked about how important it was, or how, significant it was to be attached to one of the first 10 diamond ships. But now think about the power of not only being one of those first 10, but your organization that every single one of you are a part of, whether you are in now or not, having a significant, vital role playing into the very first diamond in all of OrGano Gold.
Yeah. Awesome.
How powerful is that?
Very.
Right? So give yourselves a round of applause. Okay? We already talked about one of the first diamond ships, 100K and 250K ring earners. It's not just, and I know this, a lot of people will say, well, Brett, sure, you can say it's not just your ring, okay? It's everybody's ring, but none of that 100K or 250K every year is coming into my bank account, right? That's a pretty easy, I can definitely see your viewpoint. But how many of you agree that $100,000 and $250,000 a year is not a normal income, right? Just to give you guys a little stat, last time I checked, I believe was 2010 census report. But somebody that makes $250,000 in a year is the top 4% of the entire United States in terms of income per person, and the top 6% per capita per household. Okay, so that's pretty significant. So think about that. So 4% overall, and 6 to 7%, taking the husband and wife's income and adding them together. You see how powerful it is, right?
Yeah.
So would you agree that there's not a lot of people making that level of income, number one? And number two, would you agree that it's pretty powerful when you can grab the Gold magazine and point to, and not only just be, pointing to one person in a collective bunch, but you personally not only are a part of it, but you have interaction and some type of relationship to a point where you can, elaborate on just saying, hey, this is this guy in this magazine that I know. This is somebody that I know very well, I'm a part of, and so forth. So that's pretty powerful. Now, next, 10,000 distributors worldwide. I put this here because just think about it. Over the last 5 years, through the entire organization, okay, you got Jasmine Amstead, Susan Fairbanks, Lottie Weathers, you got, Miles and Jackie Anderson mentioned, Al Aaron, you got Mr. Shelton Bowles, Ruby Consultant just walked in the back, y'all give him a round of applause, okay? Now, he was actually here pretty much for everything that I'm mentioning. I mean, I think this was the month he got in April of 2009, so he was able to witness almost every aspect of building this. And so when you look at this, just think about it, 10,000 people worldwide over a 5-year span of time. How many people do you know at your job, or people that you know, and I'm not talking bad about jobs, but how many people do you know at your job, or think about the person that you hold near and dear to your heart the most, right? Or the organization that you volunteer your time to. Have they touched or helped not only tens of thousands of people over a 5-year span of time, but have helped impact people with the product? Okay, how many of you have had some significant health benefits from the product, or know some people that have? Okay, so just think about how many people that those 10,000 people then went out and touched and shared the product with, and that they talked to, and that they shared the product with. So again, this is something that each and every one of you are part of. Now, I wanted to talk about Mr. Holton Bugg, because as many of you know, for those of you that maybe saw, anybody see my Facebook post that I posted today? Okay, it was actually us in China, and one of the things that it was a Throwback Thursday picture, because this is back in 2009, right? And one of the things that I said, it's one thing to have somebody who at one point in your life is a mentor, but it's another thing to have a mentor that you actually were modeling, that had where you had and you were collectively building together something that's pretty significant. Because how many of you would say OrGano Gold as a whole is pretty significant today? How many think a $200-300+ million company is pretty significant, right? Yeah. So having a part of that. Now, there was a time that in the beginning of the company, and I want to share this with you because a lot of people see the finished product, right? But they don't see the process and really the initial seeds that were planted to create that finished product, okay? I'm going to tell you guys a story, and I'm 100% confident that people that are watching live stream right now, the specific people that I know are watching, don't know the story. But I'm going to share it with you guys because it's important, and it's a story sometimes that we don't really tell because there's, you don't want to just come up and just talk, just to talk. You want to have a purpose behind what you're saying. But I want to paint you guys a little picture here. When we got started in the company, the first 3 weeks in the business, right? First 3 weeks in the business, there was an event. And this event was called 3KMG Homecoming, okay? And what this event essentially was, I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but it was an event that Mr. Buggs did that was it was a local event, but there were leaders that flew in from all over. And obviously, we kind of put this event together on a short notice, but, for being a short notice and people that came in, I'm confident that the number I'm about to give you guys is pretty feasible for what actually took place, and we'll probably have one of those relatively soon. But this is what happened. There was an event that was done. It was at a local Hilton there in Houston, Texas, and it was definitely less than 200 people, probably about 150, 175 people, and it was a homecoming. It was a Saturday 3KMG homecoming, and what it was a room of 150, 175 people, and it was basically a super Saturday, where the highest pin level that spoke at that time was, outside of Mr. Buggs, was an Emerald consultant. Okay? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Mr. Ikiola spoke because it was already pretty much in the bag that he was going to be a diamond consultant, which at that time was not even a diamond back then. It was called an international marketing consultant. A ruby wasn't even actually called a ruby. It was called what was it called?
Executive
consultant. There you go. Okay. So I'm painting this picture because I think this is important for you guys to see, because some of you you're like, man, maybe 30 people in the room, maybe that's not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal. Okay. Because that 150, 175 people, that night there was an award ceremony. So we did a Super Saturday, and then afterwards there was a dinner. Now, I didn't know absolutely, positively anybody at this event outside of Mr. Bugs and a couple people that I heard by name, but I did not know anybody at this event. And during this award ceremony, there was a couple things that were done. Is they announced some people that were Ruby consultants or equivalent of that, and here it was. I was 3 weeks in the business, and I accepted an award that I still have today, that for being a Ruby consultant in 3 weeks. And everybody was like, how do you think everybody, now a lot of the individuals that are in that room, Mr. Bugs launched his business in September of 2008, okay? Now this is March, it was March the 21st, if I'm not mistaken, of 2009. So many of those people had been in the business for 6 months. The highest ranking pin at that event that spoke, outside of your first diamond that you all had a piece and a part to do with, the highest ranking person was an emerald. Rod Smith, I believe, was one. Matter of fact, Mr. Edwin Haynes, if I'm not mistaken, I believe was a ruby at the time, maybe an emerald. So you guys are kind of understanding what I'm sharing with here. So how big of a deal is ruby at that point in the game? Pretty big. So 3 weeks, I didn't know anybody. Completely outside of the leadership or building mindset of what I'm about to cover, okay, and that's taking place. Then Mr. Ikiola is recognized as the fastest diamond distributor in the company. Now, how many of you can imagine that the highest ranking pin level that night of an event of 150, 175 people, the highest pin level, outside obviously of Mr. Bugs, was Abby and Renee Ikiola. One of the fastest growing organizations that were at that event that day was the Mastermind organization. You guys see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
And at that time, there was no diamonds. So I'm giving you guys this. Now let me explain to you the magnitude of having somebody like Mr. Bugs that you're able to model and able to watch. The most powerful thing that I was able to gather over the last 5 years is really watching and understanding how to build at least what I am confident of how to build a $300 million company. How many of you can say that you're absolutely positive you know every piece of doing it, and what you don't know, you'll figure it out? But how many of you can say that I know for a fact, start to finish, how to build a $300 million company? How many of you could say that? Okay? So you guys see the power of what I'm sharing with you, right? And so the reason this was able to be created is, most importantly, the philosophies and psychologies of building this business. How many of you know every business has their own different, specialties, or their own, specific, skill sets that are required? Like, you can't just be a general, it's the difference between having a general practitioner as a doctor or a specialist, right? If you go to just the regular doctor, and then if you have something that's a little more acute or not normal, what are you going to do? You're going to get referred to the specialist, right? And so this is the difference that has helped Mr. Bugs create what you see today. Because believe it or not, OrGano Gold has now spawned into an international global company. But in the beginning, there was something that happened that helped propel that company into existence today. Okay, there for a while, Mr. Bugs was pretty much the company, right? But now, because of the growth, guess what's happened? Is those foundational psychologies and philosophies that started out as the 3KMG organization, right? The 3KMG homecoming, right? All of these things has now spawned and impacted the greater company. Because what happens, right? This is what happens when you build a culture where there's a significant difference. Now, again, one of the benefits is every single leadership event, there's another one. How many of you heard about the Ruby Retreat that's going to be coming up in August, right? every single leadership retreat that Mr. Bugs has done, which really has helped heighten the bar and grow the company in every different level of growth, right, has all, stemmed from or came after one of these leadership events. And one of the things that Mr. Bug talked about in these events was building a culture where there's a difference. And when I say a difference, it's kind of like having a cut above. How many of you have ever gone to a party and you're like, man, I'm a little underdressed, right? Yeah. Right? You understand what I'm saying, right? Or maybe you go to a party and everybody's, dressed a certain way, but there's that one guy or that one gal that is just dressed like, look like she just like stepped out of like, a high rise on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like she just walked off. You know what I'm talking about, right? So you're looking and you're like, wow, there's something different about them, right? Or you have some people that just, regardless of their status or their stature, they treat everybody like their family, like we're all part of, their organization or their, company, even though you may not be, right? And so these are the types of things that Mr. Bugs taught, but having a distinct foundation of where that came from, okay? Because believe it or not, it's not normal, okay? It is not normal, and the bigger something gets, guess what happens? The less it is the less of an opportunity that you have to really influence the duplication of that, right? So it's so important how you start something, but it's also pretty important how you continue it. And that's what we're also going to be talking about here in just a second. So I put on here leadership value of growth, and this is what I'm talking about. Is as you grow an organization and as you build it, there is a distinct value of having leadership as a essential part of growing and developing the business, right? Because it's how many of you have got some customers and been really excited about, you go out and get some new customers, pretty excited about it, right? And then a new person gets in and they're excited about it. But there has to be some type of framework where that recognition takes place. There's got to be some type of framework where you're educating on how that person did it or how to duplicate it, right? And this is where comes into the launch philosophy. One of the biggest aspects of the business that's really was a driving factor for Mr. Bugs is having a track record. How many of you know that when you have a track record and a history of doing a certain something for 10, 12 plus years, that a lot of people may know you, right? Especially if you've made over $1 million and then added a couple digits to those millions, created multiple millions. How many of you know that you probably you're going to know who they are, right? Yeah. And so what happens is you build your influence, you build a network. Even though those people may not be a part of your organization, in some regards you're building a network. And so what's happened is whenever you are able to do that, and then you're able to create a vision that people can gravitate towards, that people can really not only just gravitate towards, but they can see themselves being a part of, you're able to take people, okay? All the who's who know the who's who, right? You don't typically see the CEO of your company, going and mingling at a sales function, right? But what do? They get together with other CEOs, maybe in a similar businesses, or maybe at a corporate event with other executives, and they're playing golf, right? So that's their sales meeting. Instead of the meeting after the meeting being over at the bar or whatever, for the sales groups, the CEOs are meeting on the golf courses and the executive luncheons and all the dinners, so that they can talk about those things. And so it's exactly how it is in network marketing, okay? And so when you're able to take somebody that has an influence of people, who do you think is going to have more influence, a salesperson or a district manager? Okay? A district manager or a VP of a company? VP of a company, right? Makes sense. And so what Mr. Bugs is an absolute expert at is taking somebody with influence and launching their business with, and I mean, I've never seen anybody that's been able to launch somebody by being able to paint the picture and use words and be able to launch somebody with the level of success that Mr. Bugs. I've never seen anybody in the industry do it, and I have yet to see anybody even duplicate it the way that he's been able to do it. So that's pretty powerful. The next thing is the event system. And that's the beauty of what we were able to maximize. Okay, as an organization, we were able to maximize this event system right here. The reason we were able to maximize it is because we were a part of the vision. Okay, we made it a point to incorporate ourselves with the events that were taking place. Think about it. If you come to an event with 30 or 40 people, okay, somewhat exciting, right?
Yeah.
You know, somewhat exciting, right? You know?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But if we put this same event, but we do it with maybe 4 or 5 legs of business that each have 40 people, that 40 people has now become 160 people.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And doesn't it change the dynamics a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And so when you have somebody that not only has 40 people, but has a few groups of 40 people, but here's the biggest difference. They're able to put a system of events together to where they can take and showcase certain elements, certain backgrounds, certain successes that particular organization may be having better than the other organization. Don't you think it creates a whole atmosphere and a certain level of synergy, right?
Yes.
And so one of the things I'm telling you right now, what we were able to maximize is we were connected to the 3KMG event system. We were an early part of it, right? And so what we were able to ride the wave on accident. Now, we didn't just ride it just because we were there. Obviously, we were able to leverage those events and connect people to those events. But here's the biggest key. It wasn't that there was events taking place. It was that we thought we had something to do with the events taking place. You guys follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
It wasn't that the events were taking place. It was because internally, emotionally, when we invited somebody, we knew that we had something to do with it. Okay? Now, isn't it true that even right now today, we can have that same we have that same opportunity today, but if you're a new person that's just getting started, right? It's kind of difficult to say that you had a significant piece to do with putting 8,000 people in the Toyota Center, right? It's a little difficult for you to, really get that into yourself. Am I making sense here?
Yes.
Okay. But if you're attached to, somebody's organization like a Jose Ardon or a David Monitier, when there's 8,000 people, it's a little bit different, right? So you guys understand? So what I'm explaining right now has a lot to do with mental, okay? It's very mental. And that's part of the reason why we're covering this today, because I want you guys to understand, at one point, there was no events taking place. There was an event with 150, 175 people, and the largest ranking person was the newest, fastest diamond, which was Abby and Renee Keola. And guess what happened? You know what Mr. Bugs did? So eloquently, he was able to take that story and showcase it.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what, guys? Because a majority of those people that were in that room, we're new to the business. We don't know anything about an event system. A lot of people join in New York and Chicago over the phone. So everybody's not coming within 3 weeks, getting a plane ticket and coming to an event, right? It's just not going to happen, right? But guess what Mr. Bugs, because he understands the event system, because he knows how to leverage a story, he's able to take that and say, look at this brand new international marketing consultant. It's possible, guys.
Yeah.
We created this. The organization, the culture, we created this. You guys understand where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Okay? So it's all about how you showcase the information, right? So we're going to move on here. Now, how many are getting a little bit out of this so far, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So here's the deal. So right about that time, there was something that took place. Right about the time, the picture you guys saw today on Facebook with Mr. Bugs and I in China, one of the things that happened is there was a shift in the company. Mr. Chua said, Mr. Bugs, I recognize that you have created a culture. You've created a momentum. You've created some growth. Okay? And Mr. Chua was unselfish and the visionary enough to say, you know what? I'm not going to say, oh no, I don't want this type of influence. I don't want this positive influence that's creating millions of dollars of growth in my company. What he said is, you know what? Hey, I created this. Mm-hmm. I created an opportunity for somebody to, gravitate towards, put and connect their vision to it. Okay? Because think about that. Yeah. You have an organization, you have a team, and now you have said, I am going to make the conscious effort of hooking my wagon to somebody else's something. Yes. Right? Yep. And so what actually took place is he invited Mr. Bugs to take a part in corporate. And it's the best scenario, the best of two worlds that anybody could ever offer. But here's what I foresaw. Okay, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in detail. This is what I foresaw. As I foresaw the organization of 3KMG, which was basically led by Mr. Bugs. Remember, guys, every company, every organization is always led by somebody. Okay? Yeah. And you have to understand, mentally that it's okay to leverage somebody else's something, right? Because at the end of the day, Mr. Bugs did not own OrGano Gold when he became a part of OrGano Gold, right? But because he knew the significance of creating an organization that is a cut above, that difference that I was talking about, he knew he had to not separate himself, but create the 3KMG veil, okay? Which is exactly what the mastermind team is, and that's why I'm sharing this with you. And so what I recognized immediately, I recognized two things. I recognized that the company was going to continue to grow, right? I recognized at some point it was going to grow to a level that was going to be so big that it may not be possible to get the same level of connection, the same thing I'm talking about, long term, right? Not to mention when 3KMG was segued into OG University, right? How many of you knew that OG University is actually a separate entity technically, right? Yeah. Now, it's the training organization, but it actually was the 3KMG organization that became OG University. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, but most people, even though I'm telling you, it's nothing that you need to go broadcast, I'm just sharing this with you, is most people that join OrGano Gold and then become a part or go and study and events and so forth and become part of OG University, how many of you realize that nobody will know that there's a distinct difference? Yeah. Because it's streamlined. Right. So isn't it a little bit more difficult to create a difference of what you're building or a certain culture? Isn't it a little bit difficult to create that same philosophy that we were taught early on? Isn't it a little bit difficult because it's the same? OG is OG, right? Okay? And so I'm sharing this with you so you can understand where this all comes from. So when I saw this all taking place, I said we need to create a vision that is in conjunction with the company, hence OG Mastermind Team. We're not trying to steer away from the company, but we've made a conscious decision as an organization to promote this company, promote this product line, right? But we need to, separate ourselves not from a situation where we don't want to be a part of everybody else, because of course we do, right? That's the company's philosophy, one team, one dream. That's the mantra of the new event that's going to be in October, the convention, right? But at the same time, there has to be something that each and every person, when you're out talking to a prospect, when you go back to San Antonio, where you can feel a part of, right? If Miss Susan Fairbanks has somebody that she needs to go talk to in San Antonio, she can pick up the phone, call Mr. Bowles. Mr. Bowles says, hey, I'm busy, I've got a meeting. Call Mr. Lupe Contreras or his wife, right? There's that connection. How different does it make it when you're, getting on OG events? How many of you have ever had a person in a different city and you wanted to connect that person and you went to OG events, right? And you saw an event, but you didn't have a clue who they were? Yeah. Yeah. How many of you have had that issue, right? But how different is it when you pick up the phone and you call somebody or you know somebody that has some people in a different market and they can go and make that hand physical contact. Whether there's a weekly meeting going on there or not, they can reach out to that leader that's building that market and make that connection. Yeah. Do you see how much more value is in that relationship there? Yeah. So that's exactly what we wanted to do, is create an organization that was really I understood the value of leadership as Mr. Bugg started to grow and develop this. So I wanted to create the most admired organization of leaders in the world. Now you may see, how in the world did you come up with Mastermind Team? How many of you have read Think and Grow Rich? True story is exactly what happened. I was not a reader before OrGano. The company that I was involved in previous to OrGano, we're going to talk about that here on the next slide. But I had absolutely no idea about personal development, right? I really didn't have a clue about personal development. I definitely hated to read in high school. You know, I was the guy who bought the yellow Cliff Notes, right? To Kill a Mockingbird, all I know is I read the Cliff Notes, right? And so, y'all laughing, that's what I'm talking about. So y'all like to cheat. I know we got some cheaters in here. That's what it is. So you guys like the shortcuts, right? That's what I'm talking about. All right. So anyway, so when I read that book, one of the things that I realized in that book is it talked about having a mastermind group, and there was a mastermind. I forget what the word is, but anyway, it talked about basically a mastermind alliance. There you go. And it was basically a group of other people that specialize in certain things. You know, that specialize maybe in electronics, that specialize in motor skills, that specialize in all these other types of things, right? Mm-hmm. And when I read about the part about Henry Ford, when he was, you know, they talked that he was ignorant, right? This is somebody who's really revolutionized the world as we know it and how we get around, right? But he was called ignorant. And one of the things that he said when he was getting, you know, blasted in court is that, why should I clutter my brain with all of this useless information when he's got an electronic box of black buttons that he can just push and get whatever information that he wants, right? And so I knew for a fact that I didn't need to be the end-all be-all. It didn't need to be about me, but there needed to be a group and an organization of people that collectively were able to help each other to accomplish a bigger goal. How many of you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So that was the deal. So here's what the vision is to attract and develop leaders around the world in business, life, and leadership. Now this has kind of grown, and this is why. Because not only is it just business, because obviously that's what we're doing. We get involved in this business to make money, okay? I don't care. I'm not shy to say it. Every single one of you are not in here to feel good, to feel excited, and to drink some coffee, right? Now, we are going to drink some coffee, okay? And if they're going to pay us to promote it, then we're going to promote it, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, nobody's in here just to do whatever. Now, that being said, one of the things that I've realized is business is one thing, but if your life is not in order, it ain't going to work, right? There's a lot of people in network marketing, and, you know, I'm sure you maybe have had some of them in your organization that, you know, all of a sudden, you know, things in the business start to cause problems, right? Well, man, look, this weekly meeting started to cause stress in my marriage. You know, I got all this other stress. Now, do you think that was really the business's fault, or do you think that the business helped birth some things that were already probably going on, right? Right? So what's actually taking place is, I've experienced it myself in my own life, is how important it is to have a certain level of balance. Now I know we've talked about that on stage, and how you're not going to have balance when you're creating something significant. Now that's true. However, I think that how many of you know that there's no such thing as time balance? It's just not. Especially if you have kids, or you're watching over parents, or you know, your kids, or whatever the case may be, right? But there's one thing that I've learned very well, that there is an absolute emotional balance that you must maintain.
Yes.
Right? And so one of the things that I've really become passionate about now is not only just teaching people about the business world and how to be successful in the business world, because you're going to attract some people. I've seen this, okay? And this is why I really don't completely buy into the philosophy of, you know, if a relationship doesn't necessarily benefit you, then you need to just dispose of that relationship. Because here's what I believe at. I believe that everybody in some form or fashion is brought into our lives for some reason, right?
Yes.
And so if that's the case, then we did two things. We either attracted that negative relationship, or we created that negative relationship. Either way, we are responsible for that relationship, right? And so that being said, I feel like one of the things that we have to do is we're going to get people at different levels in life. They're going to have, some of them are going to create those negative relationships prior to the business. Some of them are going to create negative relationships in the business. Some of them are going to go and create them after they join the business. But here's the deal is, what if we created a culture whereas we taught people how to deal with all of these things? You would have people, and this happens, okay? Not only did this happen, but this has happened. Okay, I don't know who those people are, okay? But you're gonna have people that you're going to have to. It's very easy to say, you know what, you're not ready to really run right now, so I'm just gonna let you sit there and figure it out, right? Or, you know, if you see potential in that person, for you to say, you know what, this person has some things that are going on, and so we encompass a culture, an organization that not only touches on business, but life, and then teaches people how to lead through those life situations, right, that they're going to experience. How many of you in this room have experienced some of the most interesting people and have some of the most interesting experiences in this business, right? Yeah. It is going to happen, right? And as crazy as it sounds, you need those things to happen to you because there's not. I'm confident that I cannot imagine meeting, especially for Mr. Bugs or Mr. Yekil, I cannot imagine meeting somebody that has dealt with more people in more walks of life, in more cultures, than a network marketing leader that has significant organizations all over the world. Yeah. I just don't know, because the difference is in this type of industry, in this type of business, you know, there's an old saying that where you're the what is it, the chef, the cook, and the dishwasher, and what is it called? Yeah, there you go, the chief bottle washer. Okay, because in network marketing, the key is that you're doing all things to all people. I mean, and everybody says you can't be all things to everybody. I get it, but in network marketing, you really have to learn at least, maybe not how to do it, but how it's done. So if you're not going to do it, you can delegate it or lead through it. And again, this is where I came to the whole aspect of business life and leadership. Now, all of these things being said, so we've talked about the past. So I'm going to bring this together so we can talk presently where we are and kind of just reflect on what's taking place. Everybody's heard the saying that hindsight is 20/20, right? Mm-hmm. You can look back, and I can clearly see now things that I've done wrong. I can clearly see some errors that I've made. I can see some other errors that have been made that maybe, you know, I would have maybe done a different way or gone another direction with it. Now, how many of you understand or ever heard Newton's Law, right? One of the biggest things that I have learned through my reflection of what we've built as an organization is fast growth and Newton's Law of Physics. How many of you have heard of that, right? It's every action has an opposite and equal reaction. Yeah. Right? That's now I'm not a physics major, right? So don't hold me to the specifics and all the physics laws of physics and whatnot. But here's what I know. Anytime you have fast growth, okay, you have, you know, fast death, right? Wow. Because people get left behind. And here's one of the things that I have come to realize for me is when you have a heart for people, right, it's very difficult, especially if you see talent in people, it's very difficult just to leave them by the wayside because what you've got going on is too profitable at the current moment, right? Because the first thing that happens when it's all said and done, when you get to the other side of the coin or life or whatever, you look back and you're like, man, or maybe some things shift in your life, right? You're like, wow, I wish I would have spent more time over here, or I wish I would have done this. Now, hindsight is always 20/20, you can't control that, but one of the things that I realized in going through these things is what I wanted, okay, if I were to ever create a culture, create an organization where many people bought into the philosophies and the culture of the organization, is I would want not only just a leadership launching philosophy to, you know, launch those people with large spheres of influence, but let's just face it, 97% of people in network marketing do not make money. 3% of those 3% make 97% of the income. Now, why is that? Is it because it only works for people at the top? no, that's not why. It's because somebody is leading the people at the bottom. But what you have to understand with that is 97% of those people are not 3%ers yet. You guys follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's not that they're not going to be 3%ers. They're not 3%ers yet.
Yeah.
Because every single one of those 3%ers at one point was a baby with a dirty diaper. Okay? So they didn't just get birthed into, network marketing stardom. You follow me? So, when I look at this, I say there's a lot of people that get involved in our organization, your organization, okay? And I have never yet to this day seen a systematic curriculum outside of an event system, which is absolutely necessary, but I haven't seen a curriculum that really takes that person by the hand and not only teaches them how to build the business, but how to systematically learn and understand all of the differences of network marketing, how to build a relationship, how to sell. Yes, we can reference books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, but where do you hear those recommendations? Oh. So when a new person gets started that has a lot of potential, that has a busy life, that has 5 kids, how do they, and maybe they didn't get to the event, but they were alive for that 30 to 60, 90-day window. They were living, they were excited about the product, right? How do you get them that information? Now, I understand that events are powerful, but again, this is just a belief that I've always had. And so one of the challenges, and myself, Mr. Abby Gills had this very same challenge, we've talked about this extensively, is how to leave those people behind that have talent. Because at a certain point, I understand that you have to recognize, you have to be able to be a talent scout and recognize who's ready and who's not ready. But you can't just say, we'll let them figure it out. Okay? And I do understand plugging them into a system, but in my opinion, there has to be a systematic curriculum of that learning process. How many of you would agree with that? Okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, next thing is, I mentioned this a second ago, you have to understand the differences, because the biggest thing that a lot of people get into network marketing is they think they're joining this deal, okay? They don't understand that they're starting a business. Even the people that understand that they're starting a business, most business people, just keeping it real, they don't know how to run a business. That's why they're in network marketing, because they don't like how it feels to run their business. They're tied to the business. They're held hostage to the business. And many times it's a trust issue, okay? Maybe they don't trust to leave the cash register with certain people. I get it, right? But at the end of the day, these are all leadership challenges, okay? And there's processes and systems that can be put in place that can alleviate a lot of the pain. But again, traditional business people, in many cases, they have a certain level of understanding, which is why your traditional business people, I've seen it time and time again, those people that either lead or manage companies or business owners typically are a large majority of what keeps the system, the events, populated. Because they understand commitment. They understand perseverance. They understand work ethic. They understand that there's somebody that's making $100, $200, $1 million a month, and I'm going to stick around till I break the code and figure this thing out. You follow what I'm saying? So there has to be a curriculum that teaches that. Not only that, a customized plan of action for a new recruit. How many of you have ever recruited somebody and you recognize that maybe they didn't actually have the same sphere of influence that maybe one of your faster growing leaders may have had, but they have their own specific niche that they operate in, or maybe they have their own group of people that they have influence for, right? What if there was not really a curriculum, but what if there was some processes and some checklists or some things to look for that were taught where you could say, hey, this person doesn't have a lot of, XYZ experience. They don't have a lot of, leadership experience. They don't have a lot of sales experience, but they're connected to this group of people, right? You can't take somebody that maybe has a large sphere of influence, but no sales influence, no sales background, and give them a script. Why? Because they're not going to follow the script.
Yeah.
Okay? and they don't understand what their purpose is of what they're doing. They think they're reading a script to people that they know to get them in and sign them up. But really, that's not really what we're doing, right? We're not trying to give somebody a script to recruit to a meeting, right? Is that teaching? I want you to think about this. Are we teaching somebody how to build a business? No. We're teaching robots, essentially. Yes. Now, there is a time where you need to leverage stories and the credibility of other leaders so that you can showcase their results to that person. But it's very important to understand, or for that person to understand why and what it is that they're doing. You guys follow what I'm saying here?
Yes.
Okay? So I'm talking about that now. All of that, I wanted to talk about, I put on here my Ambit experience. For those of you, typically we don't talk about companies in normal presentation, but there's no prospects here. And everybody's in the business, right? Okay? Yes. So here's the deal. I want to share this with you guys because I had an experience prior to OrGano Gold. Now, again, I'll relay again that all the results that you guys saw early on, I did not have any background in network marketing prior, or I didn't have any significant success where I made tens of thousands of dollars prior to OrGano Gold, right? Yes. Company I was in, Ambit Energy, I literally made my first 12 months in the business, I made $8,500. Part-time, I worked a full-time job. This is prior to OrGano Gold. Okay, about 3 months prior to OrGano Gold, and then I quit my third job and was broke as a joke, and then I got into OrGano Gold. And many of you probably know that story, and I'll talk about it in a second. But here's the thing, is this is what happened to me in Ambit Energy, okay? First of all, I started it with, I was motivated. You got to have somebody that has a desire. Now, you're going to sponsor some people that may not have a self-intuition or be self-motivated, rather, right? You're going to sponsor people that are not self-motivated. But what happens when you get them to an event or to a function? They're like, oh my gosh, this exists. I can't tell you how many stories. Holton Bugs, let me use this for an example. How many of you know that for 7 years in Amway, okay, how many of you ever heard his story, Cash Cow? He talked about 7 years he never made more than $500 in a month. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. 7 years in Amway, sat like maybe some of you feel like you are right now. Keep coming to the event. Kept coming to the event. But you know what? He became a specialist at the information. Kept coming. Kept coming. And at some point, something clicked. And you know what he did? What a lot of people do in network marketing. He actually quit network marketing for a couple years. And you know what? He took that information that he learned in network marketing. How many of you did not know this? Okay? I'm just keeping it real because I want you guys to understand, because certain people, when they get to certain levels, you're like, holy, crap, right? Yes. Sorry, you just came. But you're like, holy crap, this dude's making $1 million a month. Like, it almost becomes unfeasible, and like you can't even fill in the blanks. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, in my opinion, precisely what happened. And I know this because I've worked very closely with Mr. Bugs. A couple years took off. You know what happened? Started a furniture business. What does a majority of the population, how do they view a business owner? Keeping it real. Forget about what we know. Yeah. How do most people look if you walk into an establishment and you say that's the owner? Do you look like that's the peon, or wow, they own this place? Wow, they own this place. And most people, because they don't understand business, they think that person got some money. Yeah. Now, PK, you know they ain't got no money, right? Okay. So anyway, so here's the deal. So most people just have this self-imposed belief that the owner, the person running the business, has got money, right? I know that's not the case. Anybody that has studied business knows that's not the case, but most people don't have a clue that that's not the case. Okay? So how is this important? Okay? This is important because when I got started into Ambit Energy, I didn't know all of these things, but I was self-motivated, right? But when you recruit your new person that comes in here and they see this opportunity, they're going to come in here and they're going to be a student, right? Mr. Bugs was a student. He took all of those studious things that he learned and he went and launched his own business. When people walked into his establishment, they looked at him in a certain way. They looked at him in a certain light. This is my opinion of what happened. And once you're in business, you've made a few $100,000. You got a home. You own a home. Maybe a lot of people that you know, they don't own a home. They don't, have a Lexus car. The hoopty and the Lexus. Okay, how many of you know if you own a Lexus or a Benz, regardless of what it is, if you live in a normal middle-class neighborhood, if you're driving a Lexus and a Benz and you're in a neighborhood, they're like, oh, that's a little cut above everybody else in the neighborhood. Okay? So he built an influence. You guys see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
He built an influence. He took those goods. He used them. He leveraged them. Some things happen. Financial challenges occur. Gets reintroduced to network marketing. Boom. Now he has influence. Oh. Well, I thought that, it just happened. No, it doesn't just happen. Okay? But some people need to disattach themselves from what they're doing for a little while. Maybe that means join another network marketing company. Maybe that means go enjoy the fruits of your labor. Maybe that means disappear for a few months and get your mind together. I don't know what it looks like for you, but I've seen it happen, and this is what I can stand back and process all this information, right? Because that's all we're doing. We're just processing information. I look and I say, wow, so somebody went and became what they wanted to become based upon all of the information that they collected, and now that they've been introduced new information, right, or maybe been reintroduced the same information at a different level in life, makes a whole nother level of sense, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm saying all this because there's always more that goes into something than what you know.
Yes. Come on.
Right? And that's really why I'm spending all this time talking about the past, because it's very easy to talk about the past, but I want you guys, I want everybody that's watching this live stream right here, okay? I want you to know what is possible for you, because I'm 100% confident that everybody that's here, everybody that's watching this, can absolutely go and build a $1 million a month business in OrGano Gold. Period. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm not just hyping it. I'm really not hyping it. I'm really not. Okay. Now, and actually, let me even restate that. It may be difficult to make $1 million a month business in OrGano Gold because you would have to experience and seen what it is that I've seen, what it is that Mr. Bug, because guess what? Mr. Bugs saw somebody do the same exact thing. They just didn't have the OrGano Gold compensation plan. Okay? They didn't have a lot of the elements that were in place that OrGano Gold was able to put in place, and that Mr. Bug was able to orchestrate when you have a certain level of influence on the corporation, hence VP of Sales. You follow me?
Yeah.
So there's a certain level of evidence that takes place when you're able to do that. Now, so maybe not everybody could build $1 million a month business, but I am 100% confident that everybody in here can build $1 million. Everybody watching this webinar can build $1 million a year cumulatively commissions earning business over time.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, okay.
It may take you 15 years, right? But how many of you ever heard the story of those people that heard that fable, right? There was this guy that was going to come back, and they were defeated by all these other kingdoms or these other segments of people over and over, and they were defeated year after year, and they were told that there's going to be this Savior that's going to come, and you're not going to have to worry about this anymore. You're going to be redeemed, right? And guess what happened? How many of you heard the saying that if they walk like a duck and quack like a duck, it's probably a duck? But guess what happened? These people were so impatient, right? The duck came, the duck quacked, right? But because it didn't happen overnight, now granted, they've been 5 different segments of other kingdoms have already beat, not just in their lifetime, other generations have came and overcome them, right? And they're still a slave to their situation. But eventually what ended up happening is their Savior came, but because they got impatient and they didn't recognize, and they only saw this, they didn't see the big picture.
Yes.
They end up not only killing themselves in some regard, but they end up killing the person that was sent to save them. Why? Impatience. But guess what? If it wasn't for that, then that situation wouldn't help save a whole multitude of other people. You guys see what I'm saying? Yes. So you have to understand the whole picture and be patient through this process. I started in OrGano Gold, or in Ambit Energy. I was fired up. I was broke. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was introduced to this network marketing engine. It's kind of equivalent to Mr. Bugs learning 7 years of Amway leadership culture, and then infusing that into business, creating his influence, and then getting involved in network marketing. It's very similar, right? Because here's what happened. I already was self-motivated. I was already fired. I already knew how to sell. I already knew how to train. I already knew how to semi-build a organization. I didn't know how to recruit them, okay, because the corporate office does that, right? It's just up for me to train and build that situation. So I walked into my first network marketing company already having it. Tenacity, perseverance. I wasn't going to stop. I would talk. True story. I was maybe making 40 or 50 grand a year at that time. I would look anybody in their eye that was making, and I'm not telling you this to talk about me. I want you to understand the level of conviction that I had. I would look somebody in the eye that was making 6 figures in their job. I don't care if they were at Dow or Dell for 15, 20 years, and I say, you are one pink slip away from not having a job. And you're going to be SOL. For those of y'all know what that means, give with me afterward. But here's why. Because I had heard stories of people that had experienced that. Okay? I had heard stories of people that had experienced that, and I saw results of people that had gotten out of their situations because of this vehicle. And I had already experienced in corporate America that it wasn't just about the tenacity that you bring to the table. It wasn't just about how good you were. It was also about how well you played the good old boy game. How well the politics were. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Okay? So I'm telling you this is paying the price. Doing meetings. Putting the projector up. Every week, putting this projector up. For 3 people. The same 3 people that were in your group. I did that. 3 people. And then, when it actually took off, there was more people. Most of the people that were there weren't even in my group. But I'm fired up, I'm excited, and I'm doing the meeting. You guys understand what I'm saying? Yeah. How many of you have done that? Y'all know, I know a few of y'all know what I'm talking about here. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So, now, understanding duplication challenges. So this is what happened to me. So I start doing that. And I start to recruit some people. And how many of you know that getting people, number one, recruited is one thing, but then getting them to come to a meeting, it's like, get them to come. Let's just keep it real. I understand we're at a meeting right now. I understand, the situation, but getting people to, it's not about getting them to a meeting is hard. It's painting the picture and showing enough value for a person to disrupt their current way of living. Yeah. Okay? And until you're able to paint that picture, and guess what? I guarantee you, I can probably do it for almost anybody that I get started in the business. I may not be able to get them all a sapphire, I may not be able to do anything, but I can get them to attend a meeting, at least a couple meetings, until they're just like, never mind, right? Yeah. But you can get them to attend a meeting because it takes a certain level of, I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but here's the deal. I started to understand some challenges. There's some other challenges that we don't have in OrGano Gold, but not only did I have to work hard to recruit you into this other business, then I had to help you get your first couple customers. Not just train you to get them, but help you get them. Yes. And many of you probably do that anyway, and you should. But and now that I think back to that business, but I had to, because if I didn't get paid. Yes. If I got to recruit you, then if I don't help you get some customers, then I don't even get paid. Yeah. That sucks, right? So that was some challenges. But then even if I helped you do that, because again, I was able to do that even, and it was no problem. But here was the challenge. The challenge was then getting that person to duplicate. And it wasn't that you couldn't get them to duplicate. There was too much education necessary. How many of you are, math is not your strong suit? Okay? So here's the deal. We had to basically teach people how to do math, how to calculate kilowatts. And if you were paying XYZ, be able to know, we can save you XYZ. We can save you about $10 a month. We can save you $15 a month. And then, you know what? Well, guess what? Now, if you don't want to do the math, you can plug it into this. It was too much to learn. The learning curve was just tremendous. And then not only did you have to, your weekly presentations or the presentations that company had was educating people that, hey, what we do is actually safe. It's actually not going to cut off your electricity. It's actually not a scam, right? You're presenting in defense, right?
Yes.
How difficult is it to share a cup of coffee? It's not that difficult. I don't have to give you this presentation on, listen, you take this sachet and you got to shake it like this. And then you have to just, maybe if you can't tear it, there's these little you're not going to go through that, right? It's pretty common sense. Mix it with 6 to 8 ounces of hot water and enjoy, right? How many of you agree?
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of education process, but these were the challenges. So I got sick of these challenges, right? And I started saying, you know what? I got involved in this business for one reason. This is a true story why I got involved in network marketing. I thought it was one of those pyramid deals. I thought it was one of those things that everybody heard about that, you need to stay away from. But what got me excited about it was because I met a guy, and I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I met a guy that was an insurance agent. He was a State Farm insurance agent making bank. 30, 40 grand a month, 15 to 20 of it was his residual book of business every month. He asked me, do you know what residual book of business is? I said what everybody says when you don't have a clue, but you don't want to look stupid, just refresh me. Right? And so he tells me that, my residual book of business is 15 to 20 grand a month. Every time people pay their auto policy, I get paid. Think about that.
Yeah.
How many of you wake up in the morning and have a cup of coffee? Okay? Just think about this. Are you able to get paid when people drink that coffee every month, every week? That would have been the same revelation I had. I said, hold on for a second. You mean to tell me every time somebody pays their policy, when you get in the, how many of you get your auto policy in the mail every 6 months? So we got a lot of people riding dirty in here. All right. So you get the policy, right? Or you get it in your email, right? Imagine if you got paid 10 to 15%, 10 to 12% every 6 months. When he shared that with me, I was like, I'm getting involved in network marketing.
Yeah.
Or I'm getting involved in the insurance business, rather. Then when I got introduced to what caught my attention when I got involved in Ambit Energy was not electricity. It was the fact that I was able to build a residual book of business via something that people were using every day anyway. Mm-hmm. You guys see that? Because this is important because we're closing out here. But so once I understood that, I said, you know what? All this recruiting and teaching, I know how to teach because I did it in corporate America. But it's a little different when you teach in corporate America because people have to listen to you or they get fired. Yeah. Especially if you got the ability to fire. Well, I don't know about y'all, but you can't really fire distributors. Even though you want to fire some of them, right? So you want to fire some of them, and even how many of you have ever fired some distributors and they just don't go away, right? So it's a little bit different, right? So what happened is I was like, man, I've got to figure out how to build a residual book of business efficiently and focus on why I got in. I wanted to build a residual book of business. I wanted to build a residual income stream. How can I focus on that? Customer acquisition. So guess what I started doing? I'm telling you, I have spent, that year I spent $8,500, I spent $13,500 creating the $8,500. Okay? I spent multiple thousands of dollars on anything you can imagine. I'm talking about from going, how many of you know Westheimer in Houston?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I would get off from my insurance job at 6 o'clock at night, I would print out when everybody, they would always be like, man, bro, you staying late. I said, yeah, so I can use the printer. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, broke people are creative, right? So I would use the printer, right? You're like, man, you staying late, man, you committed. Yeah, I sure am. I gotta get these flyers, right? So I would print out stacks of flyers, and I would drive down. I'm telling you this because you don't have to do this, because I've already done all of this, right? Yeah. And I would stop at H-E-B, I would stop at Randall's, I would stop at Kroger, I would stop everywhere, and I would go to, how many of you know when you walk in, they got the ads, right? Mm-hmm. The weekly circulars. I knew exactly what day they came out. I would go grab a stack of circulars, grab a stack, go back to my car, take the circulars back. Okay, you know how long that takes? Gas, time, and maybe 1 out of 100 would actually call. Okay? So here's my point. So I did that. How many of you, when you go to Randall's or Kroger, you see the shopping carts? And it's got like the realtors and different people on there. Man, this lady sold me on, I spent probably $1,500 $1,500 to set it up, and a total of $3,000. So Brett Shoemaker, you know, the Ambit Energy salesman, could be on their shopping basket.
Oh, wow.
Pretty creative, huh? Guess how many customers I got? I don't even know. Okay? But I spent $3,000. And it's, I mean, so I went through all these things because, that's why I put marketing and advertising failures. Okay? Because I tried these are just a couple things that I can think of that are pretty funny, you know, to entertain you guys. But there were many other things that I did throughout the time. Not only that, they're not cost effective. Okay? Not everybody has a printer at their job. Okay? And printing, I mean, it's crazy, right? So here's what I finally did, though. I created a customer acquisition model that was very similar to what I built in the rental car industry. I built a customer acquisition model that at the end of the day, I recognized where people were, and I went to those places, built a relationship with those places, and incentivized them to refer me business. I got creative. For every 4 customers that they sent me, I would give them a $25 gift card. Right? How many of you, for every 4 coffee sales, would give somebody a $20 gift card? Think about it. You're making $15 profit times 4. What is that?
60
Yeah.
Yeah, it's $60. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The company didn't teach me this. I did it, right? Because what I did in the rental car industry is I went and gave. It's a value proposition. I would go in randomly, and some of you are like, Brett, I ain't going into no random business. That's not what I'm saying. It's marketing and advertising. That's all it is. I would go in with marketing materials. How many of you have ever done marketing for your company? Like business to business type marketing and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Not business to business sales where you're going in to close the deal, but marketing and advertising. I'll walk in, hey, Brett, what's going on? Rent a car here. I'm just dropping off some pins and pads. How you doing today, Jasmine? Oh, you guys busy? And then some people look at you like, get out of here now. Right? But that's the deal. You come in, you give something for free, and then you just keep going and just keep going. And eventually what will happen is they'll be like, you know what, this poor guy, I feel bad for him. Okay? Let me just send him a couple, cars, and then guess what would happen? As long as the back end is tight, because here's the deal, this is what most people in network marketing do. They are able to get the person in eventually up front. Customer, distributor, whatever. But on the back end is really where it all counts. Because I could go there, I could get them excited and, have them like me enough or feel sorry for me enough to send me some customers, right? But it was up to me once they sent them and referred them that I gave them the most stellar service that they could ever experience. And I trained my people to do, that's all they're supposed to do. I mean, I would have people, employees that never even had a conversation with people, how to stand up, shake a customer, look them in the eye. My kids, same way. I guarantee you, my kids, if you meet them, they'll look at you and they'll be like, and they'll make sure they look at you a little longer because I make eye contact a priority. Because how weird does it feel when you meet somebody and you're like, yeah. I mean, it's like, ugh. You just kind of get, it creeps, right? It just feels awkward. But when you make people feel, and then there's other people, though, that are like, I met a guy just recently who was like, yeah. I was like, whoa, dude, like, chill, right? Which is kind of weird for me because I'm pretty, So you can imagine, right? So here's my point, though, is we built so much value in the customer experience, just the overall experience, that when they went back to their car service place, the rental aspect of it is really insignificant, right? To the whole. As long as it's not horrible, it's just whatever. But hey, was everything okay? Because we ask these questions all the time. Hey, how was it? Hey, how was the coffee? Oh yeah, it was good. Okay, great. What about, what if you said, how was the coffee? But because you were able to drop some nuggets of things for people to look at, right? Or reiterate and ask them specific question, like the person that's, when you go to pick your car up from the service shop, let me give you an example. They're going to say, hey, how was the run? Everything good? Oh yeah, it was great. If it was just an average experience, yeah, it was great. But if they wanted to dig a little deeper, they probably are going to figure out, was it actually a positive experience or was it actually a negative experience? You guys see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can ask pointed questions. that will actually dig in and divulge, like, okay, maybe there was something. Because how many of you have heard somebody say, yeah, I like the coffee, it was good, but they didn't really say anything? But the real deal is we didn't teach the people to ask pointed, specific questions like, did you notice that you slept better? Did you notice you got more energy? Did you notice that, you were a little calmer? Did you notice you didn't flip out on people like you normally do? Did you notice you didn't yell at your kids as normal? Did you notice when you got home you wanted to clean the house? I mean, these are things that come natural for me, but how many of you can honestly say you never taught your distributor that, or you never even, thought about it, right? So these are things that happen, and a couple of you have actually done that. But think about this. What if somebody gets involved as a customer, and then they start to retail the product, and instead of focusing on the building aspect, we actually focus on the customer experience.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's really more than anything what we're talking about today, and that's why I'm ending it with this, is for you guys to understand that building the residual book of business was my overall goal when I got involved in Ambit Energy, and that was when it clicked for me. Okay, here's when it clicked. When I was able to build a customer system where I would go to places where customers went, okay, apartment complexes, high-end apartment complexes, because credit was part of the combination. Okay, thank God we don't have to worry about credit with OG, right? But think about if credit was part of the situation. I had to go to higher-end apartment complexes so that I didn't have credit issues, right?
Yeah.
But once they sent me the customer wasn't even thinking about whether they were going to do business or not. They were already being referred to the people. Now, I was taking information, and here's the deal. The value, the service was on a whole nother level. And guess what? I went a step beyond and called the people at the apartment complex and said, hey, here's so-and-so's customer number. I just wanted to let you know it's good to go. Let me give you an example. Somebody wants some sample packs. Okay, I did this just the other day. A lady called me randomly off the internet, said, oh, she wanted to buy some coffee. This literally happened last week. Okay, I've never had this happen ever. She was calling me about another coffee, and they're out of business now. So anyway, I sent her some coffee. I sent her the sample pack the next day, and I called and said, hey, so-and-so, I just want you to know that I sent your sample pack out. It's done. Did I need to do that? No, but now her emotional experience, I just increased the value of the experience.
Yes.
Okay? So I know I'm talking about this. You guys are probably like, why is this important? I'm getting to it, okay? So power of customer acquisition, okay? Acquiring a customer builds belief, okay? Now I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a new distributor. Because one of the biggest things that happened to me when I was in Ambit Energy, once I finally, my tenacity and perseverance, if you made less than $12 residual your first 4 months of the business, how many of you are like, out, gone, done? 12 bucks? No, I'm done. But I saw something much bigger because I saw the residual. I knew why I got in the first place.
Yes.
Okay? I knew why I got in. It wasn't because I was going to get rich. It was because I wanted to replace my income with the residual cash flow and income stream, right? I finally found the niche of creating a customer model, right? When I figured that niche out, I was able to, that $14.50 or whatever it was, I wish I would have put it on the PowerPoint, but that turned into $23 the next month. And then the next month, that $23 turned into $30. And some of you may be like, dude, that's not a lot. But if you're business inclined at all, you would take out your calculator, figure out the percentage of growth that was on a monthly basis. And literally, if you've ever seen the financial freedom number on my little Facebook post that I put, my financial freedom number was $3,500 for the month. True story. I made Michelle sign it, and she was ticked off because she had just came from an event, and she was totally anti-MLM at that time, but I made her sign it. It was my accountability piece. And that motivated me. Taking that little 15 or 20% growth every month motivated me, and I took those numbers and compounded them month after month after month, and I think after 2 years or something, I would have had I forget how much it was, but it ended up being way more than that because I ended up getting involved in OrGano Gold. Now, acquiring a customer builds belief. How many of you, when you first got started, it's not that exciting getting customers now when we think about it, but when you just get started and you help somebody sell 10 boxes and they made $150, $200, $300, how excited are they?
Yeah.
even if they may make 30 or 40 grand a year, if they can make a few $100s a month on buying for 17, selling for 30 or 35, that's pretty exciting, right?
Yeah.
So acquiring a customer builds belief, okay? Making a profit, okay, which means that you successfully acquired a customer and didn't just like, give all your money out. Making a profit builds confidence, does it not?
Yes.
There are some people that are in this business that never had success building, but they had success acquiring customers and getting a profit with customers, and still to this day, that's exactly what they're doing. Because that's what they feel good about, that's what they're confident about, and that's what they've successfully done. How many of you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay? How many of you, regardless of how involved or engaged you are in the business, raise your hand if you still have people that call you for the coffee? Okay? Now, how many of you, when you first got started, you didn't think about customers, you were trying to recruit the world? Okay? So, confidence strengthens convictions.
Yes.
Okay? So, when you're talking with somebody and you're convicted, you're not wavering, well, yeah, I can really do this. But you're absolutely positively convicted about it. How much more moving is that? Okay? So imagine if you had more people, forget about recruiting for a second, imagine if you had more people getting started, selling coffee, making money, and how convicted are they going to be as they're talking to a new prospect or anybody about how well this product sells? Do you understand where I'm going with this? Even so, objections. You will naturally, if you have a stronger conviction due to your confidence because you've actually made a profit and you're making sales, your conviction about the product, whether it's health benefits, whether it's does the business work, it's not even, you can't even compare it to a normal or an average distributor because you have gotten results.
Yes.
You guys see what I'm saying? Now, strong convictions about your belief, what happens to that? Creates an attraction. Because now, every time you talk about it, you're at the pool. Somebody asks you, what do you do? If you haven't made a lot of money, or mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you don't feel like you've done something that significant, it's all in your mind, you're like, oh, well, yeah, I'm part of this, coffee thing, and we have healthy coffee and there's health benefits, but you guys know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, really? Yeah. And they're like thinking like, wow, that dude doesn't sound very excited about his coffee business. That's what they're thinking, right? But somebody that's made money, and I don't care if they're salesy or not, I could care less. But, oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's a 180 of that, too. They're like, absolutely, it does this. Do you have high blood pressure? Do you know something that does this? Do you do this? Do you do this? And it's exciting. I mean, there's a whole nother aspect of it. But, again, strong convictions about your belief creates a certain level of attraction. There's a belief factor that is engaged, right? Okay? And a lot of times we talk about belief and people get mystified with the whole belief thing. They're like, wow, that's incredible. But, I mean, guys, this is not rocket science. I mean, there's certain things that I guarantee you I could put one of you on the spot right now that maybe you don't feel like you're good in front of people, maybe you don't talk well, but I could walk you through right now and make you feel so confident, and you'll be passionately explaining to me what you like or what you do, and you will be impressed with yourself right now. Right? Let's do it. I would, but I'm going too long on time. I don't want Mama to get mad at me. Anyway, I get two mamas here. Anyway, so passive recruiters through product referral. This is what happens now. Now you have people that are passionate, that never build a business, that are passionate because they've sold the product. They're excited to talk about the product when put, on the spot about the product. And guess what happens? They start getting more product sales. So what starts happening naturally now is you have recruiters. I put passive recruiters through product referrals. In other words, those product sales attract other product sales. Those product sales, it starts to perpetuate a natural experience. What's the best form of advertising? Where did you learn that? Childhood. See, some of y'all learned it in network marketing, right? Okay. But a lot of you probably understood that word of mouth, referrals, is the best form of advertising. And it truly is because, again, it goes back to the referral in, when I was in Ambit and the other things. When somebody in a specific entity refers something to me, I'm not even thinking twice. because I've already given you a certain level of trust. I've already given you a certain level of respect. I came to do business with you, so now I'm automatically assuming what comes with your business package, right? And that salesperson that's referring, that they're actually getting a $25 gift card, right? But do you think they're telling that person, well, go here because I get a $25 gift card? No, unless they're, crazy. But they're going to say, because they've already started using you because you delivered value, okay? Which is why they didn't use you in the beginning, because they didn't want to just sell some trash because they were getting paid. But now that they understand that there's value associated with it, it's a win-win situation. That's the most important piece. It's a win-win situation. Now they're referring. Now, you got passive recruiters that through product referrals. People refer product. What does a go-getter? It does not take a rocket scientist. I know somebody in this room right now very well that before they ever got in the network market, this is what I know. If you showed him a product that sold, okay, where he could buy it at a low price, whether it was, what is the street? What is it? Harwin? Whether it was Harwin in Houston or Hong Kong, okay? If you could get a wholesale price and it was a product that sold and you could retail it, you don't take a rocket scientist to be like, oh, hold on for a second. You mean this coffee's healthy and blah, blah, blah. And they're doing the math and they're automatically thinking how they can make money. You guys understand where I'm going with this?
Yes.
So because of product referrals, because you're teaching the masses who are the biggest percentage of people that are in your groups are these people. They're not leaders. They're not in a leadership role. They're not business owners. Even if they own a business, they don't have a clue how to scale it, which is why they're in network marketing, because they want out. You see what I'm saying? So this is the power of this. Now, Organo Gold understands the power of this with March to a Million. Now, I understood the power of customer acquisition long ago, and the past doesn't matter, but here's what's important right now today. It's very difficult to take a large recruiting-based organization, which is Organo Gold culturally. We've got a culture that loves everybody. It's oneness. It creates everybody. It's a big team, and that's incredible because we've got people that will still come and drink the coffee, so to speak, right? Yeah. And they'll be a part of events and all that kind of stuff. They'll be a part of events, not because of the recruiting system, but because of the event system, the culture, the way that they feel when they come emotionally, right? But the masses of that was built primarily through the recruiting aspect of the business. You guys follow me so far?
Yes.
Okay. But Organo Gold said they were smart. They looked at it as a business. How can we maximize now, okay? Because everything's cyclical, okay? Everything moves in cycles, right? And the fasting. How can we, during this cycle, how can we take and maximize the distributor base, the network that we currently have today? How can we make that more productive and cooperatively help build our brand? You guys follow what I'm saying? Well, let's come out with a customer challenge, a March to a Million. Here's the challenge, though. You have to very slowly shift. When you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people, you have to shift the way that you present the information. You can't just go, we're going to go change it from this to this, because then you look like, hold on for a second. It was this, and now it's this. Yeah. It doesn't look good on a large scale. But here's what you have to understand. All this customer acquisition, I've built my case. It's proof of the matter that customer acquisition is a big deal. How many would agree with that? Because now it's here, okay? Coffee Connoisseur Club, that came first. Then we have the brew cups, right? Now, we already talked about marketing and advertising. The best form of marketing and advertising, what?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Now, from a business standpoint, how many would also agree that marketing and advertising does sell, right? Yeah. It just takes over and over and over, okay, to get somebody to make that sale. This is where network marketing comes in, because it's that referral. It's that word of mouth. There's no research typically that has to be done, or the traditional marketing and advertising of get somebody eyeballs 12 times to get them to make a sale. Typically, you don't have to worry about that through a referral aspect of a product, right?
Yes.
But what if you could infuse a few different things, okay? You look at retail sales. We already talked about this, but retail sales equal profit. That's a successful business. Now, if you could duplicate this aspect of creating loyal customers, and here's the most important aspect. If the company can now recognize, celebrate this culture that we're talking about building. Again, the ship has to slowly be turned around because the ship is big, right? You can't turn a aircraft carrier on a dime. Although now they turn pretty quick, but I mean, you can't turn an aircraft carrier on a dime. But if you're in, a little pontoon boat, boom, you can do donuts, right?
Yes.
So here's the deal. Donuts in the water, right? So here's the thing, though. But now the company has created a platform. I believe this right now, for those of you that understand the overall aspect of what I've been sharing today and kind of the background what I've gone through and now leading in this customer acquisition, you're going to understand. Imagine now if you can create a customer acquisition model to where now somebody's able to be recognized publicly on stage at an event for becoming a star achiever.
Yes.
Okay, for those of you that don't know, I'll just touch on it real quick. Star achiever is what we used to know as a case club, but some people look at case club and say, well, I got to buy a case. Not necessarily. If you create a combination of customers that buy the product online and cash, okay, that means you're either going to send them to buy it online or you're going to exchange the product with them, which means you have to buy the product up front. Either way, you're getting recognized for what? Not a case purchase, but what? Customers,
yes.
Essentially, right?
Yes.
Which, yes, has come from 450 CV of volume. Now, how many of you are understanding what I'm saying? It's all about how you craft the message.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how you teach your new person. How many of you would honestly say the first step when you got a new person started, you got out their list and you were trying to book CJMs immediately?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, but how many of you see now where if we kind of twisted the culture up, I'm not saying we change everything,
yes.
but what if we change our approach? Because here's the purpose of a CJM, okay? Just to give you a little bit more. The only reason you do a CJM is to do another one.
Yeah.
You've heard that before.
Yeah.
The only reason you do a CJM is to expose some people to the information. You're trying to duplicate, recruit people. Well, you already know your negative aunt, uncle. You ain't even trying to invite them anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
But hold on. But what if you work for a coffee company and you're a coffee promoter and you're like, hey, let me give y'all some of this awesome coffee. We're a coffee company now. Boom.
Yep.
That's different packaging.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you ultimately, now you know if you have some go-getters, those are the people you want to invite over for a CJM.
Yeah.
But you guys understand this goes back to the systematic curriculum of letting people understand what it is that we're doing. And now that you know what we're doing, let's segment it so you can understand what to do with what people. It's somewhat of categorizing your list, but it's much more in depth than just categorizing your list. Because now what comes next? There's two completely different things. Once you categorize this list, there's two completely separate things that you have to do. Because you can send them samples, you can go in person. Mr. John Securus talked about it at one point. I went to people and shared the coffee with them. It's kind of sort of the same thing, but where's the curriculum? Where's the step-by-step approach of how that's done? And yes, it is taught, but at an event. Where can I send the new person? You guys follow what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
So it's everything that's been taught, but in a very systematic format with a certain element of focus on customer acquisition. Not just to sell coffee, but to acquire a loyal customer base that's going to pay you a residual income. Because this is what I know. I used to think the $1,000, $1,500 a month that I made in Ambit Energy, I've gotten paid, and I'm only telling you this so you guys can understand. 14 months I was in that business before I came over to OrGano Gold. In the last 5 years, I have made about $75,000 for that 14 months of work, part-time. You know why? Because they keep buying their electricity every month.
Yeah.
And they could care less whether it's an MLM company or what the deal is because there's no difference. They don't get better electricity through TXU. It's the same electricity.
Yes.
It's just got a different bill that they get in the mail. As long as it doesn't get too crazy, they don't care. They don't want to change it. It's not worth them spending mental energy on.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going? So imagine if in 14 months you could create a 500 to, now I was going gangbusters and I created something it's duplicatable, but eventually it could be saturated because of the demographics that I was in, but coffee's completely different. What if you could teach somebody that just got started how they can build $500 to $1,000 of residual income that is continue to pay them because you got customers blowing up your phone or you're pointing people to go buy the coffee on a website? How many of you right now would know some people that would be interested in making $1,000 a month?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get this thing all twisted. I got started in network marketing because of $3,500 a month that I wanted to make to be financially free. That may not appear to be too sexy, but $3,500 a month means that I didn't have to go work. I didn't have to go to a job. My kids, I didn't have to go drop them off to go to work, to pick them up, to come home, to cook dinner, do homework, and do it all over again the next day. You guys see where I'm going? So there's a system now. Once you do it 4 times, through 4 legs of business, now you're a superstar achiever. The company recognizes it. So basically what's happened is, what I have always known and what my background is in customer acquisition, what's now happened and taken place is the company has created a culture it's kind of like a generic smorgasbord that I can now select from, right? And they can craft a certain message and craft a certain curriculum for each person. If you're a go-getter and you want to build and you've got a large sphere of influence, well, I'm going to launch you, and then through launching you, we're going to then teach those people that don't have influence this thing right here. And those people that come in that, we're not going to trick. Most people that get in, they don't even think they can make $5,000 a month part-time. They don't even think.
Yeah.
Even if you're making $5,000 a month right now, you don't think that you can do it part-time, because if you did think, you would have been looking at it or looking for a vehicle to do so 10 years ago. But so if you can teach them how to build a business, teach them business philosophies, business ideas, how to be a business person, and meanwhile they're making a few $100s a month, and they don't have to rearrange their whole life and come to meetings and do all these extra meetings and all this other stuff. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's not for everybody in the beginning. You guys follow me? So, all this being said, this is the future now. Okay, we talked about the past. We've talked about where we're presently at and what we have right now. Now, I will share this with you though. There is definitely value to everything that I've mentioned. But here's the trick, and this is where the artistry comes in, is molding all of this together so that it's very streamlined.
Yes. Okay?
And 90% of that is going to come through the leadership communication. But at the end of the day, there has to be a tangible home base. There has to be a curriculum. There has to be, even though you may have a different teacher, there's a manuscript. There's a manual. There's an English, 1, 2, and 3 textbook. Okay? There's a place to point at that the consistency of the information is going to be pretty much the same every time. So I understand the value of that. We've been very fortunate over the last 12, 18, 24 months. You probably noticed, you probably said, what in the world happened? That's probably why many of you said, what is this meeting about today, right? But we literally, for the first time in my life, I was able to step back and enjoy the fruits of our labor, okay? I was able to enjoy a residual income much more compounded than that first 14 months I built an Ambit Energy. I was able to enjoy a very comfortable way of living because of what we built, right? And I would love, not that I would love, I want to build a culture where if Jasmine in 5 years from now says, you know what, now that we've got, a residual income coming in, $10,000, $20,000 a month, I want to step back, and I want to let all my leaders do their thing, because guess what? The mastermind team is going to keep on humming, because it's not about Brett. It's not about Michelle. It's not about, Miles and Jackie and Al and Shelton and Jasmine and Susan. It's about the bigger vision of what it is that we're building. And so you can step back, because guess what? It's going to keep going. Yeah. It's going to keep feeding. And the beautiful thing is that we've been able to experience that with OrGano Gold in several ways, which is the reason why we got involved in OrGano Gold in the first place, because we knew that if this thing really did what we saw was possible, that it was going to be powerful long term. And the company has taken, corporate events, the product itself is a strong residual product. I've never seen anything like it, where people buy, literally to this day, not because of the recruiting aspect of it. This is because of the product. Literally thousands of dollars of product every single month. I can pull up my back office right now and show you hundreds, not just because they want to be in the case club or be a star achiever, hundreds and thousands of dollars of product every single month that people are buying. And I can only gather that it's because they have customers that they're servicing, because there's no way they're consuming all that product every month. Okay? So here's the future. Imagine if you could combine the leadership foundation that we obviously know is important, right? That's what people are attracted to. That's what they're drawn to make a big impact, a significance. Next thing is customer acquisition. We've talked about how important customer acquisition is. The an MLM business curriculum, going back to what I said earlier, teaching people what the difference is and what they know, teaching people what the difference traditional business is, even letting business people, give them a greater understanding of network marketing and of business without, just slapping them upside the head and say, you don't know anything about business, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? Creating an online and offline recruiting platform, okay? And what I mean by this is teaching people marketing and advertising, okay? Because it is a part of business. No matter what, it is a part of business, right? Think about every business that you did business. Marketing and advertising could be giving out those pins and those notepads when you're walking into places. Yeah. I forgot everything in the car. It's the postcards when you give out to customers, potential prospects or customers, right? It's samples. It's all of the things, the tools and resources that we use. It's Facebook. There's different ways to build online, okay? But, again, there's a systematic introduction of, you don't just teach everybody that comes in, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to be on Facebook. You need to do this. You need to go recruit. Because everybody's not ready to do that. Again, you have to figure out a way how to introduce this business to your life. Yeah. A new person. That takes time, right? But it also takes thought process. There's not going to be a cookie cutter way, hey, go do a CJM. I mean, that's great, but we have to teach somebody, do they even have influence? What is the purpose of doing a CJM, right? So you have to understand, a CJM is, yes, we're going to expose the information, but does this person even have influence enough for you to invest your time and go do it? And number two, make them feel stupid after they do it and nobody shows up. You guys follow what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
So there's online and offline recruiting methods. And I mean we've talked a lot, we've said a lot, it's gone a little longer than I expected, but here's the thing that I want to share with you guys. When we talk about online and offline recruiting, what a lot of people don't know is this market, specifically in Austin, okay, was built through some, we're just going to say, grassroots recruiting. Actually, we're not going to talk in secret about it. How many of you have heard of signs, like bandit signs? Okay, yeah. This market was created. Jasmine called a bandit sign, and at one point, her leg of business was doing 160.
Like 140 something.
No, more than that.
Maybe 160.
Okay. Oh, maybe. Okay. Anyway, so almost $200,000 in volume because somebody called a sign.
Yeah, 140 something.
So 140 something because somebody called a sign. Okay. So wouldn't it be kind of shallow for me to say that, that doesn't work? Because it did work. Mm-hmm. Now, is it going to work all the time the same way? Absolutely not. Yeah. But guess what? There's not just one way to skin a cat, guys. So there's multiple tools that are necessary to teach, because everybody's not going to go do it offline and talk to their friends and family. I think that's the most effective, fastest way to build it early on. But what most people do in network marketing, why friends and family is such a scary thing, is because they're trying to go recruit them instead of acquire a customer, because this product may add value to their life. If it doesn't, hey, great. Because I don't want to make a sale, I want to add value. So it's all these things that I know are not taught, because I know I never taught them, okay? But intuitively, it was a part of how I did things. But if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to be doing it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's really why I see such an opportunity, because obviously those of you that are here right now thought enough about me, thought enough about what we're doing, what we've done, to say, you know what, this is a powerful opportunity. I know this is a powerful opportunity. We've got all of the pieces in place with, most importantly, not even just with the Coffee Connoisseur Club and the recognition pins, but the culture of the company is exactly what it needs to be for us to customize our own. Okay? The company's big enough, it's created a platform well enough to where now we can create a culture of our own that just to give you guys an idea, imagine if people that were doing grassroots advertising, like the sign, imagine if, you know, for that segment of people in your group that were doing signs or doing drop cards, right? What if there was a online platform that could create a recognition aspect of because XYZ person did 10 drop cards today, or this person put out 20 signs this week, or 20 signs this month, or whatever. What if you could recognize, not the results, because in the process, guys, is there any results? No. I spent $13,500 and made $8,500. I'm not going to celebrate that, right? I'm not going to say, how many of you want to spend $13,500 to make it? It just doesn't make sense. But what if you could applaud my effort? You know what happened? I got recognized as one of the top Texas recruiters in that company. I had no idea. It was an accident. But guess what I experienced? Recognition. What if you could recognize a person being tenacious, being using their perseverance to keep moving forward, to doing the right stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine how powerful that would be if you could recognize people in your group that were marketing and advertising, doing different methods. That's something that we've been working on. So there's a lot of things that we've been working on. There's a lot of things, but everything that I'm sharing with you, all of these stuff, I have web developers. The organization, we have web developers. We have graphic designers. How many think it's a pretty cool PowerPoint that we put together, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I didn't do it, okay? I thought about it. It was a lot of time that went into presenting it, but I didn't actually do this PowerPoint, okay? But the graphic designer did. There's a lot of elements that we can do by taking online and offline stuff, merging them together, but most importantly, making it fit into your lives. Now, we're not, at this particular moment, we're not going to start a weekly meeting in Austin because, quite frankly, it would be totally contradictory to everything I just shared with tonight, okay? And for those people that are in different markets, if they do weekly meetings in their markets, that's great. Keep doing them. If they're working, keep doing them. But the biggest thing is what I believe we need to focus on as an organization, and this does not happen fast, okay? It happens very slow initially because you have to create a model that people can look at and say, wow, this really does work. You've got some result from it, and create a model to where we all collectively have said, you know what? We're going to all buy into this vision, and if everybody leaves here today and says, I don't want anything to do with this, it doesn't work. But if everybody says, you know what, I can buy into this piece, I can buy into that piece, I can buy into this piece, and you buy into the big piece. If you buy into the mastermind vision, essentially what you're doing is it's you. It's not me, it's not Susan, it's not Jasmine, it's not Lottie, it's not Shelton, it's you. We've all bought into this collectively to propel ourselves as a piece of something bigger, which is OrGano Gold. There's a difference. There's something different. I've heard it time and time again, whether it's the Humphreys or who it is out in New York, other diamonds that recognize, man, you know those Humphreys, I love those people. Jasmine, Susan, yeah, Austin, I love those people. Shelton, man, every time I go to San Antonio, he always is there, treating, making sure we're taken care of. You guys see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the difference. And it's going to take everybody working together to get this done. But I'm excited about where we're going. This customer acquisition, it's not just about customer acquisition. It's teaching people the entire process, but understanding the root of our income, the root of your freedom comes down to having a customer base that buys the product regardless if you do a meeting, regardless if you're doing 50,000 CJMs a week, regardless of where event is. It's about how many people have bought into the philosophies of you and who you are. Remember, people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yes.
It's not even because they need the product sometimes. And there's people that will spend more for our product regardless if they're paying less because they like you.
Yes.
Or they like what they've learned at an event. They may come to one event, they're like, man, I love the way I felt when I was there. And so when they drink that coffee every morning, they have a flashback. How many of you, when you play a song, like your wedding song, you get kind of teared up and you're like, you start, because there was an emotion attached to it. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys coming out. For those of you that drove, I really appreciate it. Before we leave out of here, I wanted to just give everybody, all the leaders, the rubies. I know we got a lot. We don't have a lot of time, but if I can get all the rubies to come up, y'all give them a round of applause. And before we give them a second here, I want to recognize. Is there any well, see, first of all, is there any platinums, or we're just going to group these all together right now? But any platinums, 2-star platinums, 1-star achievers, any of that? Is there anybody? If you are, just stand so we can recognize you. Okay. Okay, we got Miss Sarah through the home. Okay. Awesome. And then we've got Miss Lottie Weathers, Sapphire. Any other Sapphires in the house? Miss Lottie Weathers. Okay. And then, of course, our rubies. And as I mentioned earlier, Shelton has been here since basically the inception of the organization, so he got to experience a lot of this. But if you guys just go ahead and just share anything with anybody, just go one by one. Ladies first. Okay, ladies first. That's what I'm talking about.
For me, I love the customer acquisition. I was really thinking about my business, and we have a lot of people who build, but we also have so many people that I don't know, that I've never met, all over the country, who no matter what are going to buy this product. They might not even buy it every month. They might buy $300 every other month, but they need so many things, right? They need the lotion, they need the soap, they need the coffee, they need the capsules. Whatever it is they can't be without, they order it. Yeah, toothpaste, thank you. Every single month, no matter what. For myself, if I was not building this business, it would not matter. If OrGano will pay me no money, I would order this product hundreds of dollars every single month. So it really is powerful, because when I look over my entire business, what the volume is every month, it is such a huge percentage of that is just people loving the product who have never built a business, So I really love this emphasis, and I think we can really change lives with it,
So pretty much what you said was kind of what I was thinking about sharing, is that there are so many people that love this product. For myself, my family, I can't even spend $200 a month. It's about $300 bare minimum if I don't need, several capsules. And because we drink, a lot of King. We go through 4 boxes of King at my house every month, and we go through about 4 boxes of Black, and and then having everything else. You've got to have the soap. You've got to have all the stuff. And again, looking through my organization, there are people that maybe got in initially because they thought, oh, this is great, but they just loved the product. Yeah. And had I known now what I knew then what I know now, I could have helped them just find some more people that would just buy the product and have some customers, and they would be paying for their product at least every month, Yeah. And that's very valuable. If you show someone who isn't a business builder but love the product, that they can share this with other people and pay for their product. But what if you had 100 people doing that in your organization, and then you had 100 people that were building the business, but they kept, just duplicating what they did. And even if they didn't build the business to a really big point, maybe they're making $1,000 extra a month, and they're thrilled with that. Maybe they're making $1,500 to $2,000 a month extra. What if you had a whole lot of people throughout your organization that did that?
Yeah.
We make it too complicated. I think in the past we've made it really complicated, and certainly I have trained many of you. Okay, we got to do these CGMs. We got to find all these people, because that's what I was trained to do. But I love this. It just makes so much sense, and you can just relax and be excited and go out and share the product.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I can say is definitely so many people get started, and the first thing that happens is if we don't teach them how to move the product. I mean, customer acquisition, everything to me just starts with the script, and just being able to allow people to take that script and utilize it. That script is the quintessential difference to me between ninja and samurai. And I really mean that because that script moves all the product, and then it makes it easier transition into an auto ship. It makes an easier transition into a CJM.
Yeah.
And I don't care who's doing weekly meetings anywhere. If there's not meetings going on at homes, there's no essence for a meeting going on anywhere.
Yeah.
So there in a volume-based business, no meeting, no money, no movement. And the only thing that I can say is that we just got to really tighten up as an organization, and we got to continue to stay system-based to the point where we're not all over the world, but we understand what we're doing, how we're doing it, and understand the stories. Like, when Jeff first got started and they used that sign to create what was going on in Austin, I mean, that was a clue. It was not trying to go against what was being taught, but it was actually letting everybody understand the true essence and the fact of the matter that the seed never looks like the harvest. Yeah. And the sign was a sign in general because it showed that it worked. Then we didn't want to go out and teach it to everybody, but if we understand concrete that it works, yes, then why not go out and do it again? I'm excited for what's taking place. I'm excited to be able to work in multiple markets and to be able to know that, that we as an organization have enough humble humility to realize we didn't do it all right. We made some mistakes, but we've admitted to that, and we can come together like a bundle of twigs, and we cannot be broken. We're going to continue to move forward. Yes. We're going to go back to realize that we created this, and we will now overcome everything with posture, integrity, and honesty, and just move forward and just do some amazing things. I just think it.
Well, guys, look, we're gonna be around. I'll be here for. Unless Michelle calls me and says that unless Michelle calls me and says that I need to make it home swiftly, then I'll be here. So I appreciate each and every one of you.
Bobby, there's a few people that came in after the meeting started. Brett would like, I'm sorry, Mr. Shoemaker would like, I'm sorry, your name and phone number and all that on here, and we are each contributing $10 for the room tonight. So make sure that you see me before you leave. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we gotta. This is Bobby's the bouncer, so yeah. Let's give Bobby a hand for helping out. All right, here we go. So guys, listen, I appreciate each and every one of you coming. I want to give you a couple things to look forward to. We've got the convention that's going to be in October. We'll obviously be there. We didn't make it to Atlanta because Michelle can't fly, and I wasn't going to be in Atlanta and not see my first daughter be born. So obviously that goes without saying. But we've got the event that's going to be going in October. Between now and then is really the time for us to come together as a unit. Don't just let this be the only meeting. Let's do some follow-up calls with each other tomorrow. If you have some time, you want to stick around and ask some questions, let's do it. I'll dive into more of the different tools and what I see, because I have a lot of stuff that I talk about, but I want to honor the time we said 7 to 9:30. I know we started a little bit after, but I want to honor that time. But I'll talk about some of the things that we have in store, what we're looking forward to in the future, and then after the event in October, depending on what it looks like between now and October and what we were able to do and accomplish, and I will really play a vital role in what we do after October. But what I'm seeing is all of us being able to really create an infrastructure, a curriculum of beta testing, so to speak. Yeah. Like Shelton mentioned with the signs. That's exactly how it happened. Jeff came to me. Many of y'all know Jeff. He'll be back. Mark my words, it's on video. Yeah. But anyway, he came to me and said, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, dude, I've never done it. It's not part of the system. But guess what? I'm smart enough to know it's just marketing and advertising. You come up with a different, better way that works. You go do it. And that's exactly what I said. If you do it and it works, we'll promote it. Yeah. Guess what? Now it's a part of how I recruit and how I teach other people how to recruit in the cold market. Not how to customer acquire, but how to recruit in the cold market. Which, even while you start to get people with a solid customer base, hey, perfect way. You want to start to recruit some people on the side of your customer acquisition
Yeah.
model? Hey, here you go. Get some other people to repeat your customer acquisition model. So
Yeah.
again, guys, so it's streamlining all the information, like Shelton said, like Jasmine and Susan said, and being able to take this to where it's comfortable, it's exciting, it's fun. I like to have fun. If we're not having fun, it's not really fun for me. I live on Lake Travis now, so I see some events where maybe some star achievers and in the future will be coming out and going on the lake and maybe doing some swimming pool and some barbecue and some crawfish and maybe some cerveza. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, but guys, seriously, just to really have fun with this and really, create some freedom, which is why we're all here. So I appreciate each and every one of you coming. We'll be around and definitely look forward to having some more events in the future. And thanks for coming.
Thank you.